All right,
So
well, thank you,
I call the meeting to order. So it's 2:05. And the first, I have to read this. Due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, in accordance with Chapter 20 of 2021, suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, OML, public bodies otherwise governed by the OML are temporarily relieved from the requirements that the meeting be held in public place, open and physically accessible to the public, so long as measures are taken to ensure public access to the body's deliberations through adequate alternative means. This meeting will be live on Zoom. The public may participate remotely by joining Zoom meeting ID 884-8642-6478 or by calling 929-205-6099. For additional information about remote participation, please contact Dr. Patty Petrossi, Petrossi at ayer.ma.us or 978-772-8260. There. So we are all present. And so the first thing I'd like to do is to approve the minutes of November 2nd. Dennis took the minutes that day, and in it there he had essentially put a blank in for Part K of the director's report. And I went to the Dropbox and put in with economic and community development for a COVID grant. So I made that change. Are there other changes that need to be made to that?
No.
Okay, if not, I'd like a motion to accept these.
Motion to accept the minutes?
Second,
All in favor? Carol,
Yes, aye, sorry.
Janine,
Yes.
Sister Paula,
Fine, yes.
Dennis?
yes.
Chair says aye. Okay, now I have not received minutes for December 7th.
I took minutes and I'm having technical difficulty. So after I meet with Cindy tomorrow, hopefully I'll get them in the Dropbox by tomorrow.
Okay, great. So now that we have official approved minutes, can they go to the website somehow? Cindy, are you still there?
So the way that works is that you sign them and then you submit them to the town clerk who signs them as well. And then she puts them on the website. Cindy, am I summarizing that correctly?
Perfect. Yes.
Okay, so how do I sign it? Can I just,
Literally signature, right?
I don't need a real signature and then send in a hard copy, do I? I do?
Yes, I
Okay.
believe so. And then Susan will get them to me for the website.
Okay,
And where on the website are they posted?
They would be on the Council on Aging board page.
Okay,
There's a link that says agendas and minutes, and it may say video too. When you click that, you get all the meetings, the agendas, the minutes, and any meeting video that might be associated with that meeting.
okay,
Okay.
thanks.
so we may have some other minutes. While we're here and while Cindy's present, I created a new file in the Dropbox labeled Director's Reports. So I will put Katie's reports in there, and access should be to us only. So as Katie said in the budget one, I guess you said these are to be shared. I think Katie's director reports should not be shared.
So Carolyn, you created the Dropbox folders?
Yes.
Okay, I think, and Cindy, correct me if I think you're the only one who can grant or deny permission to access those folders. Is that correct, Cindy?
Yes. So if you just right click on that, you should be able to set up the sharing with everybody else.
Okay.
On the
Now,
folder name.
Yeah, so once I do it for the top level folder, you know, the COA board, or COA, whatever I called it, does that automatically give those people permissions on every subfolder, subfile?
I believe it does.
Okay,
I'm 90% sure that it will work that way if you give it at the top level, everything underneath it.
okay, so if
retains the
somebody
same
wants to
security.
sometime soon, check out the folder I created on directors reports and, you know, see if you can really access that.
So it sounds like this is what I need is access so that I can put the minutes directly in the Dropbox.
Oh, maybe that's why.
Yeah,
Yeah, you don't have
There we go.
permission.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought I gave everybody permission, but you know, I'll check that out again.
Okay, give me a yell if you need any help with that.
Okay, great.
Easier if I'm looking at it than trying to get into my memory.
Yeah, okay.
that's why I thought if I needed to work with you tomorrow, I could have the phone, I could have the thing and walk through it, but maybe we've just answered it. It could be the permissions.
All right.
Okay, great. Okay, so on to item 3, discussion of the budget proposal. I thank Janine for her excellent questions on leading us to a more detailed explanation of the budget. And, you know, Katie, if you want from there.
Sure. So yes, thank you, Janine, for all of the questions that you posed, and hopefully everyone had a chance. I know my answers were rather lengthy, but I was trying to get everyone kind of caught up to where we could have a productive call today. As I think we can look at them by item, I guess, category by category. For the salaries, I'd like to see one more staff member come back to restore the nutrition coordinator position. So we would have myself and as director, Sam as van driver, a nutrition coordinator, and an outreach coordinator. Debbie has been in one or both of those positions in recent years. As there's a Meals on Wheels driver position that was also removed this past year. I'm not sure that we need those 3 positions, but 2 of the 3 I think is beneficial. Does anybody have any strong feelings about that either way?
My only question is, how are you doing getting volunteers to be Meals on Wheels drivers?
I haven't even asked for volunteers yet. So I've been wanting to take these couple of months here to get kind of settled into our routine and make sure that I'm running that efficiently before I added another layer.
Okay.
But it would probably be no more than an hour's commitment twice a week. And depending on how many volunteers we had, we could certainly, if we had more volunteers, we could do it every other week or 1 week a month or something like that.
So you said 2 people for about an hour, 2 days a week? Or I'm sorry, I'm
Yeah.
trying to do this for the minutes.
Yep.
Okay. And at this point, are they still those frozen dinners?
Meals on Wheels deliveries are always the frozen. They're either hot, refrigerated, or frozen, but they are always the pre-portioned meals for Meals on Wheels deliveries.
Oh, I see. But I mean, you know, those frozen ones are not very popular. I was just curious if it's still all frozen now.
No, it depends on how many meals that you're getting delivered. If you're getting 1 meal on Tuesday and Thursday and you're able to make your own meals on the other days, your meals on each of those days will be hot.
Oh,
If you're
okay.
asking for 5 meals a week, then you're going to get a combination, because we're only delivered 2 days a week. You're going to get a combination of hot, cold, and frozen.
Okay, I didn't mean to digress. I was just curious. We can go back to the budget. Thank you, Katie.
Mhm.
And Katie, how many meals are delivered on a weekly basis about?
If I had to, I don't have the sheet in front of me, but it's in the mid-30s someplace. So that's clients. Actually, let me grab it.
Okay.
We had 20 on Thursday. We had 20 clients get a total of 56 meals.
You deliver more than once a day or not?
Twice a week.
Twice a week. We deliver on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And Debbie's doing
Oh,
that
I see. So
now.
20 different people had 56 meals total.
Yep,
I
on
see.
Thursday. The
Yeah,
number would be 20 people getting probably 40 meals on Tuesday. So you've got typically, there's a couple of people who only get meals one of those 2 days.
yeah.
But typically it's around 20 to 25 people and they each get about double the meal.
Sure. And we know, I mean, I guess, going back, trying to increase participation somehow, or do we know that, the town, folks are aware of this service and could access it when needed, or?
We can certainly try and increase outreach for that, for sure.
Okay.
Any
Or-
other? Okay,
I
sorry,
mean,
go
there may
ahead.
be, the drivers or Sam may have some kind of informal idea of if there's any reluctance or people aren't accessing it well or
Mhm.
whatever, or they're just used to access it and grew tired of it and stopped accessing it, or,
Right,
Right.
Yep.
What did you just say, Dennis?
I guess to summarize, I was just encouraging Katie to try to increase outreach or at least get some, scuttlebutt on whether or not it's an effective service that people are hopeful of accessing it, or if they're reluctant to access it for some reason, or whether, 20 to 30 people, let's say, are pretty much are the only ones where the need lies.
Thank you.
All right. So then, if I go down the budget categories, overtime, that's not really negotiable. Services, the services are things like rent, housekeeping, cable, water, cell phone, movie license, copier contract. I don't anticipate there'll be any major changes to that. That's kind of a standard budget. I'd like to keep the aerobics instructor line item in the budget, just because if I can find someone to teach, I will. I haven't been successful so far. And people are doing okay with the DVD versions, but I'd like to build that program out and have a mix of live and DVD programs if possible. So I'd like to keep that one in there.
Have you tried looking at Neshoba Fitness there at the corner of Groton Harvard and Central Central Ave? There are some fitness instructors who work out of there, gaining private clients. A lot of it's kind of weight training, flexibility. But I would think there may be some folks in there who maybe want to do some aerobic stuff.
That is a good idea. There's a couple of places here in town. I had started asking around at the instructors that are at the other COAs to see if anyone had more time in their schedule. And so far, only afternoon availability and nobody wants to exercise in the middle of their day. So, but that's a great suggestion to look reach out to the area gyms. Thanks, Dennis. Let's see, in terms of supplies, it seems like the number that's in the budget right now is adequate. Sometimes it takes time going through a year to see what kind of supplies you would need and to look and see what each of those things were spent on last year. And I'm sure I might prioritize different things, but general supplies are anything from party decorations to if the Monopoly board tears and you need to replace that, any of those kinds of things. That's a very general budget. The food supplies, that one needs a big change. Did everyone have a chance to read what I put out in that email on Thursday about the food supplies budget? It's not
Yeah.
really food. It wouldn't really be food supplies. Well, unless we're counting food itself as food supplies, right? It would be more like the meals program.
Right. This is, what you're talking about is what's called, what you label as the food budget under your,
Yes.
okay, yeah,
And so, you know, I can't, we're offering restaurant takeout and some take and bake heating things right now. I can't continue to do that after I've used the COVID funds up, the COVID grant funds, because there's not enough budget, $900 annually to do that. I can't buy the less expensive food and cook it myself because I don't really have the proper kitchen permit to do that on a regular basis. The Board of Health has said that they'll work with us for some special exceptions, but not on a regular basis. But then I can't get the proper kitchen permit to do the less expensive without the renovation. So it's a little bit of a circle there. So so with the numbers that I put in, and I was kind of just doing some quick and rough math, and then I looked back at some of the meals we've done to date, and it looks like anywhere from half to 2/3 might be able to be recouped with meal revenues, depending on the meal. So let's say, you know, I'm sorry, I could probably reduce it by that amount. I'm sorry, I didn't mean, so if I did, again, some quick math, $90 a month in the coffee hour supplies, that's, you know, the snackies and coffee and filters and that sort of a thing. And then looking at about a $400 to $450 special Friday takeout meal once a month if we had our existing kitchen. And then 3 additional smaller meals at $50 a piece. That would be sort of pizza, lasagna, that sort of a thing. So that would allow us to do mock on any of the other days a week and then Friday special meals. But that would require 48 applications for special one-day permits each year. I do run the risk that the Board of Health will say that that's kind of circumventing their process. I can certainly ask for that. So if that comes up to $9,000 a year, again, someone check my math, that's possible I did, but I could probably ask for 6,000, for example, and then know that we're going to have some revenue coming back in. If I have an updated kitchen, I had proposed $15,000. That would cover $90 a month in the coffee hour supplies. That could potentially be less if we were making everything ourselves rather than buying, you know, pastries or donuts or whatever. But at some point there's a place of diminishing return for that. So I left that number there. Then 1 special meal per quarter, with the idea that special meals wouldn't be as special or as needed because we'd be having great food every day otherwise. And then 19 smaller meals per month at $50 a piece. And then that comes up to $15,000 a year. That one, again, I think could be reduced by 1/3 at least, which would be more like 10,000. Then both of those figures include the current $900 budget, because ServSafe certification is $450. The kitchen manager, we need at least 1 kitchen manager, and the other people are food handlers. But those are good for 3 years. And so if it was me and a nutrition coordinator, we would need that, you know, and 1 other person, we would need that kind of every year to cover the 3-year cycle among 3 people, if that makes sense. And then we don't currently have a budget for things like upgrading kitchen pots and pans and stuff to work with the new commercial stuff if we got that. So we would want to be able to add some things each year that goes by. And then of course we need kitchen supplies like paper goods and stuff like that. That all goes into that budget. So, these represent really substantial changes to our current operating budget. So I just wanted to kind of run this by you guys and see, and I haven't talked to Robert yet, so I don't know what his take is on this.
So those numbers are annual numbers.
Yes.
So, you know, following up on our conversation from, or our discussion from last meeting, it seems that in spite of the cost of the new kitchen, it still works out to be more financially viable than upgrading the takeout for 3 to 5 years in an effort to attract greater participation. That is, it's cost prohibitive to, over the longer term, use takeout as a substitute for an upgraded kitchen.
So if I remember correctly, well, I guess it depends on how often you want to do that takeout, right?
Yep.
So I remember in our last meeting, I somehow thought that number was like 36,000 or something. It was
Right, yeah.
a big amount, right?
Yeah.
And the difference is that 60 some thousand, and I forget what the final number was that capital planning is using right now. It might be 56,000. It was, like I said, it got scoped anywhere between 50 and 70, and still in progress. That money is not available to use for takeout. That money is money in the capital planning budget.
Right.
So that's only available for physical purchases.
Yeah.
It's not available in my operating budget.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Well, I wanted to verify something along these same lines. It sounds, Katie, from these updated answers to my questions and what you're explaining now and comments Dennis made, that it really does behoove us to update this kitchen. And that was a big source of discussion last time. And I think there's really sounds like there's been a lot of work put in it. It sounds like some of the numbers are still being crunched. But I have to say, I was kind of hesitant about updating the kitchen since we're building a new senior center. But I think you've brought up enough points and really addressed crunching some numbers of which that will continue. And I think right now, I think the kitchen should be updated. And that's going to be something we're going to have to address either in this budget or as we go forward. And it does affect how much you need to allocate for other food and so forth. But I mean, we hired Katie for her expertise, and it sounded last time like she really wanted this kitchen to serve the clients better. So I'm all for it now.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. So I guess if the budget numbers here are on an annual basis, if we kind of optimistically hope that the new kitchen would be operational by, I don't know, July or, maybe halfway through the year or something.
So
Then,
once the town votes, not at town meeting, but at the ballot, my understanding is that I can begin that work, because even though the fiscal year, that meeting will be, I believe, in April, right? That's when you guys have your town meeting.
typically, yeah.
They,
Well, it's late April, early May sometimes.
Right. Even though the fiscal year doesn't start until July 1, my understanding is that once that has been allocated, it's basically encumbered for that purpose. That might not be the right term, but it's, that was my understanding. So yes, it could start and be done sometime in the summer.
So it may only require like 6 months worth of a more robust takeout allocation, shall we say? And
Well,
then,
I think I've got COVID funds that will get me through, if I'm wise about them, they'll get me through the end of this fiscal year. Because remember, we don't run on a calendar year for the town, we run on a fiscal year that it ends it's July 1st to June 30th.
Mhm.
So I think that COVID money that I have right now, I'm going to try and coast on through, keeping our nice mix of meals going between now and the end of the fiscal year on that. And then we'll start the fiscal year fresh with either a new budget or a new kitchen or both.
okay. No, that makes sense. Having thought about it, it's not ideal, but I do think that, there's nothing more important than attracting increased participation, and good food obviously will do that, but also it's obviously a kind of critical service to be able to provide. So if that requires a new kitchen that we have for 4 or 5 years, then I think so be it. And we ought to pursue that.
I agree. And I would like to also mention that I've been nearby the Loaves and Fishes food pantry. I did some volunteering there for quite a while. And they talk about food insecurity in this area, and it's really hidden, but it's there. So any way that we can support clients with food, quality food, I think is really worth it.
Great. So, I'm sorry, Carolyn, were you starting to say something?
I was just gonna say, so I guess we have morphed this discussion into the, to the big question about, whether we're gonna support the kitchen or not. I would first like to ask, what about the stove? Is that gonna be repaired, or how's that going?
I don't have a call out to do it. I do need to do that. Make a note here to do that. I need to look back. I believe it was purchased at Hunter Appliance. I have to look back through some of the files and see. In the meantime, the last meal that we had, I just started absurdly early, reheating at a low temperature. I can certainly repair it. I wouldn't replace it until I knew the outcome at town meeting. It wouldn't make any sense to buy a new stove now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my question, really. Okay, so I would like, we have opinions from Janine and Dennis on whether to request this capital budget or this capital request. Carol, do you have an opinion?
Yes, I think we should do it.
Okay, and Paula, Sister Paula? Maybe she.
They're asking for your opinion. I mean, the budget, the capital request has been submitted. I was, so it was more of a, I was surprised when we met last time that there was a lot of hesitancy. So I felt like we should talk it through and discuss it and, make sure everybody was okay with going forward with it. So I think Sister Paula, that's what they're asking is, are you okay with going forward with it? Okay.
Okay. Yeah, and I am too. So I mean, if you need any backing for your budget request, just say that, you have unanimous support of the board.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I think I'm inclined in terms of the budget for the food going forward. I'm inclined to ask for, I had said 15,000 for the updated kitchen, but maybe accounting for revenues, bringing that down to 10. I think I'm going to go forward with asking for 10,000 for that. That way, that accommodates our greatest need. And then it gives me some room if it doesn't pass, I guess.
I'd like to bring up something. I haven't extensively looked this year at different budgets, but in the past, I've read the annual report. I have them on the shelf behind me. And I believe the COA budget is really quite modest compared to a lot of departments. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, when it comes to really creating healthy meals and essential services, I don't think you should necessarily go on the cheap. I mean, it's really a drop in the bucket compared to a lot of other pieces. And I'm not saying go crazy and have takeout meals twice a day, 5 days a week. But, when it comes to really providing essential things and food insecurity exists, I would say go with the higher. That's just my opinion.
And do we know the rehiring the nutritionist position, is that a full-time position you anticipate, or?
It was, I believe, 20 hours a week
Okay,
previously, which is full-time for the sake of benefit. No, I'm sorry, it was 30 hours. It was 30 hours a week before.
okay.
I'm not sure 30 hours is necessary. I think as long as they stay over 19, so they're benefited, I think we'll get a better candidate than if we go for 19 hours. And since it's already budgeted that way, I don't think there'll be any issue with that. I'm not sure 30 hours is necessary. I think the job can be done in less. If you think about, there's probably 2 hours worth of prep, potentially an hour worth of serving and an hour worth of cleaning. That's 4 hours a day times 5 is 20. Then you've got to have a couple hours a week of shopping and a couple hours a week of reporting. There's always a lot of paperwork that goes with that. So, I mean, I think 25 to 30 out, 20 to 25 hours is probably adequate for that.
Okay. All right. No, that's good.
Okay. So now we're to the agenda item of old
Wait,
business.
excuse me.
Okay.
I didn't know that we were closing the budget out yet, because I had another agenda item I brought up to Katie. And again, I had trouble with the Dropbox, so I sent around at the 11th hour today a document I drew up on branding. And I'm not saying we have to answer all the questions about branding today, but we might want to include something in the budget to replace the street signs so that they're consistent, to create business cards. I'm trying to think of what on the top of my head, the different assorted expenses. And I was thinking something modest. The most expensive to make 3 street signs and the sign outside the center, make them all match, I think would be in the neighborhood of $750, because the street signs already have the posts, so you don't have to pay for the post. I would imagine the DPW would do the installation, so we wouldn't have to pay for that. So it's something to put on the table for next year, is to talk about branding and how it creates an identity for the senior center. And even things like that, we discussed briefly, should we call it a senior center? Karen was going to call it the Center for Active Living, which Robert Pontbriand talked about at the meeting the other day. So that's his impression, that that's still what we want to call it. So we're going to have to address it in a larger picture kind of thing. But in the meantime, as part of the budget discussion, I think it might behoove us to not wait another year and get some money towards making our signage consistent and start to create an identity. And I just had a ballpark figure after looking on the internet where you could get some kind of standard signs with a chance to put different text in it. And I think $750 would cover everything.
Okay.
Could that be
Uh,
included in your general supplies or office supplies?
Right, that would be a request to increase that general supplies. That's the one that's listed, I think, at 3,200 right now. I would increase that one with the special request involved. Yeah.
Well, I think that would be very helpful, and we can talk about the content at another meeting and how we want the branding to look, that it should be consistent. So,
Okay.
thank you very much for considering it.
Great. And then I think the only other major budget category that was left was programs. And the way I kind of like to run programs is to offer, a lot of different programs, because what it means to be a senior when you're 60 versus when you're 90, it's very different. The needs are very different. The level of types of programs you can attend are very different. I like the idea of being able to subsidize some things to keep it affordable. Not every program has to be pennies on the dollar, but I do like to subsidize kind of as I go along. And then also, I'm noticing there's just maybe because it's a small space, there's not a lot of arts and crafts supplies or the foundations of some of those types of programs. So I'd like to be able to, for example, I was reached out to a watercolor instructor and said, if I wanted to have a group of 12 people painting once a week and I needed supplies for those dozen people going forward, like how much would it cost for me to get the program started? And, you know, it was going to be $400 or $500 worth of supplies in order to get paints and brushes and palettes and all those things, boards and paper and all that stuff going. So I'd like to increase the program budget, not for that specifically, but with the idea that as we're building, we will need some foundational supplies. So right now it's a $5,000 budget and I'm going to propose that it be $8,000. I just don't know. The budget directive calls for level funding. So I will need to state my case that because I'm a new director and intend to run the department differently than it has been before, that hopefully they will consider not just funding it the same way it was, but I don't know.
Do we know how far back did that $5,000 a year number go?
So if I look at the programs budget, I got a new document. Programs were right in 2019. I have actuals from previous years. It was 3,800, and then 2,500. And then in 21 and 22, basically no money was spent. So,
and what was in the years that the 3,800 and 2,500 were actually spent, what was the request for those years? Do you know or not?
I don't have,
okay.
I don't have that document.
Sure, no, I understand. Yeah, I mean, I think the 8,000 is fine. Is fine with me. I think you may get some pushback because if they say, well, we allocated 5,000 2 years ago and you only spent 2,500, you know, why do you need 8 this year? So the kind of response to that, and I, you know, I'm sure there is one, but it's just kind of worth thinking that at town meeting, those are the kinds of things that raise red flags for some of the citizenry.
Right.
If you're not using your full allocation, why are you requesting a greater allocation?
Well, I mean, the simplest answer to that is that I'm not the person who didn't spend it all. I mean,
no, I know, but that's not. I can assure you that that's at town meeting. That we may not want to be in a position of saying that in a public setting at town meeting. So,
sure.
But COVID is a huge
I was just
story
gonna
too.
say,
Poor Carol.
I was gonna say, thank you. I have hard time getting a word in, but I think that, you know, it was the COVID years. I mean, it just makes sense to me that people would see that you wouldn't spend as much during the time we were closed.
No, I know, but the $2,500 and $3,800 number I think came from pre-COVID years.
What year?
So 2020 spent $2,500. That would have been partially non-COVID and partially COVID. And then there was nothing spent in 2021 out of this budget. And then $275 spent to date.
We don't know what 18 and 19 looked like.
19 was 3,850, but I don't know what 18 looks like.
Okay, all right.
I think another thing is that Katie wants to expand programs. And I think the town manager's office is very aware of that. So I think that's another way to justify it, that maybe it's not exactly what it was in the past.
And I think that this is the time to make sure that we're adequately funded. You know, Katie's in her honeymoon period, you know.
No, I agree. I'm not arguing against the point.
Right.
What I'm trying to stress is that at town meeting, when the budget request is made, there could be any number of random citizens who may kind of object to or seek answers to specific questions just because they're concerned about the change in the numbers.
Well, there,
And, what's that?
I just was gonna say, for sure, that question is gonna come up. You know,
Right,
why now?
yeah. So
But
we just want to have all our ducks in a row for the argument potentially on the floor at town meeting.
Yeah.
In terms of getting buy-in from the Board of Selectmen or the COA board, I think that we can clearly do that. But it's on the floor at town meeting where unexpected things can sometimes happen and things can get derailed due to kind of random questions that are coming from the audience. So just to kind of, be alert to that and have a proper response.
Well, and having numbers, by then you should have some numbers that will show that people are returning. So that'll help.
Okay.
I think it's a legitimate concern, though. I've been to those town meetings. Some people come up with the craziest things. I mean,
Okay.
from my opinion, for them, it's important to them, and I respect that. I didn't mean to say it too harshly, but yeah, they go over those numbers. It's true.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a rational objection. It just has to be an objection that gets a majority vote.
Right.
And given attendance at town meetings, that can get kind of dicey sometimes.
Mm.
So
So having ducks in a row is a
Adam.
good strategy. Having
Yeah.
ducks in a row is a good strategy.
So are there other areas of the budget that, and thank you, Janine, for bringing up the branding. Are there other areas of the budget that you'd like me to spend, or of operations that you would like me to spend more time on or to look into so that I can make sure that, for example, if I've allocated $500 of my $5,000 programming budget to watercolor, but it really was a priority for there to be wood shop. I mean, I'm just using random examples. I would love your input on those sorts of things as well, so that I can make sure that the number I'm asking for is both accurate and, backed up with specifics.
How vague can you be about which specific activities you're recommending, or can, you know what I mean? That don't tie your hands too closely together if you think you might have to switch midstream.
Sure. Well, I mean, for the sake of the budget, that's what I turn into the town. It's just the line items. So yeah, I don't need for going into the town, I don't need any specifics, but the way I arrived at, for example, the 9,000 or 15,000 was I did my homework. So I wanted to ask from you guys what other things you want me to be focusing on in the budget, so that I can make sure maybe that budget for programs, for example, needs to be 9,500 instead of 8,000. I think when I'm asking for the increase, it probably doesn't matter which one it is. I'll get it or not get it, but I would like to have it based on the things that we actually think are priorities. If that
Well,
makes
I think it's a priority to try to get more men into the senior center.
sense. Okay.
I know that as the population gets older, there are actually fewer men who survive. But I was talking at the picnic that we had your day. Well, look at our demographic right here, okay, Dennis?
Yeah, I'm painfully aware of that.
Yeah, but I was talking to somebody at the picnic when we had our meet and greet for Katie's, and that was a lovely event. And he was going to other senior centers, and he said there's nothing really for him at Ayer. So I just passed that along. I'm not saying it had to be wood shop. Some places put a pool table in. We don't have the space for that right now, but that could be something in the future that could be justified, because it would be good to bring some men in. And they,
And then like people too.
yeah, that's true too. But when I looked in the pool room in Westford, and it was something like 6 guys and 1 woman. So there was a woman there, and the guys formed a team, and apparently there's some sort of competition they can go on to other senior centers throughout the area every year. They have a competition, and Westford was like, woohoo, did you know we won? I said, no, I didn't. Good for you. So anyway, that's all I bring up, is that maybe
Yeah.
something geared towards men.
Yeah, I think going forward into the new building, that's a priority, you know, when I'm supposed to be looking over the design layout, making sure that there is a room that is dedicated to games and gaming is a great way to get more men in the building. And it's not that women can't use it, but you know, a room that's got shuffleboard and a pool table and a poker table and those sorts of things, I think would go a long way. I do have poker on the program calendar right now, and I was brushing up my poker skills last night, and no one showed up today. Actually, I don't think today. I think it's tomorrow, but maybe tomorrow someone will come.
Oh, you for one of your, monthly or quarterly trips, you could maybe schedule something to one of the casinos and see who shows up for that trip.
Yeah.
And
So
then-
I know some diehard women who love those casinos.
Oh, yeah.
Would they object to the installation of slot machines in the new senior center?
Ooh, there we go. Now we're getting serious.
Yeah. Fancy ourselves.
It is, oh no, it's next week. It's every other Monday. I have it scheduled poker right now. Yeah, I think poker's a good one. I can do a men's coffee. I can also try to make sure that I have male focused day trips. I once did a shave and a haircut and a lunch afterwards. So we went to, in Pittsburgh, there's a place where, you know, people are learning to be barbers, and they have clinics, and you can go and get a free shave and a haircut. And I did that once in Townsend, filled the 12-passenger bus, and then they went out to lunch afterwards. So I can certainly try and build that kind of programming out for sure.
So maybe you could ask for some money for that. I don't know. That's where we're talking about now for the budget. I don't know.
I mean, the other thing for me, and we talked about it briefly last time, is, and I know that there's the relationship with the Neshoba Board of Health, I guess, but just kind of health education, or, you know, common health problems, you know, diabetes treatments, you know, obesity, osteoporosis, you know, all the kind of typical elderly things that may be not diagnosed or untreated or poorly treated. And I'm not sure how, you know, how much ability the senior center would have for either paying someone to treat them or educate them, or to liaison with their primary care physicians or something.
There are a number of health educators out there from the different organizations that support us. And that is something that needs to be a part of building the programming back. I will say those are always a tough sell. Oftentimes if you offer them independently, no one comes, because everyone knows what they need to do and no one wants to do it. If I offer them during a lunch, that's usually you have the best turnout that way. So yeah, I agree, Dennis. I'll make a note on that. That's definitely something that needs to be built out. Those are typically free though, luckily, for the sake of the budget conversation.
Mhm. Okay, are there other budgetary items we want to talk about?
I just want to
Okay,
thank everyone for your support as we kind of go through this as my first year in this as a department head, and thanks for walking through it with me.
so so now at old business, I would like to talk about the volunteers. In particular, I have a question. Do you remember the little guy, Gus, that I brought with me when we were delivering Thanksgiving meals? Well, he was so excited. He wants to do that again. And he was wondering if there were the Meals on Wheels opportunity for this Christmas luncheon that you're having on Wednesday. Could I bring him again and we could volunteer for something like that again?
So Meals on Wheels goes out on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Did you guys deliver the regular Meals on Wheels, the individual ones, or did you end up delivering the big, the grocery
Yeah,
bag?
we did the big Thanksgiving dinner.
Okay, so that's tomorrow. Yes, tomorrow. That's not the same day as the Christmas party. That was a perfect storm on Thanksgiving that Loaves and Fishes chose the same day that we chose our Thanksgiving meal. And it was actually very confusing for a lot of people which meal they were signing up for. So Sam will be picking up tomorrow at 10 a.m. the Loaves and Fishes Christmas dinners. And those will be delivered tomorrow. I'm sure he'd love to have help delivering those
Okay,
if you're available.
I can't do it tomorrow. Maybe Carol, could you take Gus tomorrow?
Maybe, I don't know.
Okay,
Well, just think about it and let me know.
Okay.
And then the 22nd is our in-house Christmas party. And I could use any assistance if people want to help serve or just be here and be jovial and supportive. And we're also doing a Yankee swap with a spending limit of $15. So if anyone wants to participate in that, you're more than welcome to do that. And then the
I'll
same
be there.
thing for, okay, great, thank you.
I'll be there.
And then the same thing for the 29th, which is our almost New Year's Eve party. We will be having dinner or lunch, and then doing some dancing afterwards. So we could use some help. Actually, I could really use someone to help for New Year's Eve. We're doing a photo booth. So I could use someone who wouldn't mind being the photographer for that.
okay, so that's actually on the 31st.
No,
No,
it's on the 29th.
29th.
We're not open on the
Oh,
30th.
the 29th, okay. Yeah, Carol and I are committed for that day. Are there other people who could volunteer for that?
I'll think about it. I don't want to commit right this minute.
Okay, I understand. Well, your guys are always welcome and we can always use extra hands. Sister Paula is a rock star at helping set up for lunches and serve drinks and things like that. So we always appreciate her help.
That's fun.
Yeah, it is fun, right? You get to talk to everybody and hang out and see how they're doing.
When I first started going to the senior center there, I thought Sister Paula was an employee.
I know.
The baked potato day was a huge success.
Great. Yeah, I think people liked that. I had a couple of requests to do that. They said, if you want to have a baked potato bar every month, you can. So, yeah, it was very good.
It was.
Okay, so then the next thing I wanted
Oh,
to
wait,
talk.
I have something on old business. Are we moving
Well-
on or?
No, I was going to do some old business too.
Oh, okay, well, just tell me when you're leaving.
So, how did the training go on Friday?
Went well. So Cindy joined us for the first hour or so, and I think the software is going to be great as far as helping us track our statistics, helping us streamline reminders and things like that. It allows us to track who's vaccinated and who is not. There's just a lot of possibilities for the software. The monitor is up and working. And then starting in January, I'll probably take 1 week where I plan to greet everyone as they're coming in and make sure that they have a key tag and that they're signed up and in the system. So that will be a little bit labor intensive in the beginning, but so worth it in the end.
Okay, so, let us know if you want help for that.
Mm-hmm. I would love to have help. Let me make a note to, I could use going forward. I am going to look for people willing to do either on a regular basis or on special occasions, the sort of general receptionist tasks. So that would be a great trial by fire to start the week that we do my senior center cards.
Right.
So what dates are you talking? You said the first of the year?
How about the second week of January?
Okay. Okay, because I like to do that.
Great.
Okay, has there been a meeting on another topic? Has there been a meeting about the new center? I know that, yeah.
There was, yeah. So we met on the 15th and Janine sat in on the meeting for Dennis, who had a conflict that day. And we basically got acquainted and discussed sort of the progress to date. And then everyone had some to-do items as far as I'm going to review the sketches, the layouts and program plans for the building, just to make sure that those still suit what I would like to see going forward, or what I think the possibilities are. And then there were a couple of other sites selected. I'm going to be careful not to mention specifics of them, only because this is an open meeting and being recorded, versus the other one is an executive session meeting that is closed to the public. So the point there being, there are some other properties that we may consider that were beyond the list of them. And so I guess I'm not exactly sure what to mention publicly and what not to mention. So I'll leave it like that for now. So,
Okay.
And did they, were decisions made about how often the building committee will meet or when the next meeting will be?
yes, they will meet again. Janine, do you have that right in front of you? I don't have it right in front of me.
I don't have it right in front of me, but I do remember that they wanted us to talk about amongst the COA, some of the things that we wanted in the center. And there is a lot that was already done. And Carly said that she had quite a bit of information for Katie. Have you been able to access that?
I haven't been able to do that. Let me,
And Sister Paula was a rock star at one of our early meetings when she had a whole list of, in her very precise hand, of all these different things. And so it's not like when we talk, we have to start from square one. It's much easier to take ideas and edit them than start from scratch, which has actually already been done. So that should be the final recommendations that we drew up. And I think I had the honor of typing up. And that should be in all those papers from Carly. So it is valuable to try to get access what she said she had. I don't know if it was a pile of actual papers or if it's computer, but I remember she said you could go over and get it.
Wait, do you
So the
remember we
next-
had that big meeting at the high school? Where
Yeah,
they started, we all wrote down what we wanted for the senior center. That, I mean, that should be somewhere.
that should be somewhere, and it's come up several times, and people have approached me in the grocery store, whatever happened to our ideas? And they were hoping it was going to be posted on the website. People have wondered. You don't want to feel like all your input and your your evening that you spent at the high school is a waste.
Yeah. I've got a stack of papers on that topic, and then between what Carly has and what the rest of the board has, oops, sorry. Sorry, my battery's running low. Just one second. Let me go get the charger. But the David and Julia from Abacus would like to attend our meeting on January 4th. And then the next meeting is Wednesday, February 2nd at 10 a.m.
So are they, so they're still looking at monthly meetings for the building committee, I guess, is the, or every 6 weeks?
I think they were talking about, it's kind of a waste the next couple of weeks in the end of December and early January. So I think it's possible it might step up after that.
And I
But,
think they thought that it would be moving forward. Everyone wanted to move it forward, but that it would be moving forward if they were coming to our meeting on January 4th.
I see.
Now, I would like to request something regarding the building committee. Should I wait for Katie?
I'm here.
please.
I'm just sorry. I'm on the side. I'm here.
Yeah, look around the other side of the computer and you'll see her.
Okay, so I went to this meeting on the building committee because Dennis couldn't attend. And the vote where you voted him to be the representative was the one meeting I missed probably ever. So I would like to request that I be a second person on the building committee, and I'd like to give you my reasons. First of all, it happens like he just couldn't attend, that there will be a second person. The other thing is, when I was asked to be on the COA board, it was specifically to work on the new center. So I was there from the beginning, and that was the reason I agreed to be on the board. So I think both of us have something to bring to the table. I think Dennis is fresh ideas and fresh eyes, and he knows the town very well. And I've been there from the beginning. I have my knowledge of the town, and I have my knowledge of what we've done. We could back each other up. If somebody misses it, we still have somebody. I noticed also that other representatives had 2 people. Abacus had 2 representatives. The town manager had the town manager and the assistant manager. There were 2 people from the DPW. And I think it's important that the COA be involved in this as thoroughly as we can. And I would really love to be the second representative, and I hope you support me.
You know, I think that's a great idea. I would only question whether, you know, I mean, we do have 2 representatives. We have Katie and another
No,
one.
that's not entirely true, because she's the director and we're the board.
Well,
And I also wanted to point out the last meeting I went to. All right, I forgot my last point. Okay, I'll let you speak.
if you consider, you know, the town manager and the assistant town manager is 2 people from the manager's department, then you have to consider Katie. So you know, I'm not saying that we don't.
They didn't have, if they had the board of selectmen, they would be considered separate. So we're similar in that regard.
Well,
I
anyway,
think it's worth the ask, right?
Yeah.
I think it's worth inquiring about, and I could reach out to Robert and Carly about that to see if there's any reason why we couldn't do
I
that.
would appreciate it. I also forgot another point, that the last meeting I went to before COVID hit, Catherine, who used to be on the board, and myself and Karen went. So historically, we did have 2 people on.
I mean, that's fine with me. I think it's actually great and helpful to have both of you on it. It's, you know, it's just that we selected 1. If we could select 2, that'd be great. Yeah, I mean, as far as that's my opinion.
I don't mind the company. That's fine with me. I think having that kind of turnout from the board would, you know, might provide some additional support for the board's ideas. Was there anybody from the planning board there? I noticed that Ken Diskin was
Who
on the
is
email
Ken
chain.
Diskin? Can you tell me who he is? They said his name, but I missed it, who he actually is.
He is, I mean, he is a current member of the Town of Ayer Planning Board. I don't know if, was Mark Archambault there, the town planner?
No.
Look back.
You know.
Ken Diskin was there, but I don't remember a Mark person.
Yeah, I'm
Mark
assuming that
Wetzel
Ken
was there.
came as a
No, Mark,
representative
no.
of the planning board.
There were 9 of us total.
Okay,
So it was David Eisen and Julia Patton from Abacus, Ken Diskin from the planning board, Robert and Carly, and then Dan Van Shalkwick and Mark Wetzel from the Public Works, and then Janine and you and I.
okay.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Okay.
appreciate it.
Are there other old business that we want to talk about?
Oh, Sister Paula has something.
Okay.
I have a basic question, and this may sound like I'm still in kindergarten. Who actually draws the final yes on our budget? I know we submit a budget, and then that goes to the town, but then do they play around with it before they present it to the town meeting? And they
Yes.
decide how much it's going to be, or does it depend entirely on our?
No, I think, I mean, I think it goes from our recommendations, then the finance committee would have to vote on it and approve it. And then I think the Board of Selectmen would vote on it and approve it. And then it would go to the floor of town meeting.
Yep.
Correct.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah, there are
That
lots of
answers my
eyes. There are
question.
lots of eyes on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, generally, the eyes don't get very deep into the line item. You know, probably not even the selectmen. Probably the finance committee gets to the line items, and then the selectmen may not even get to the line items, you know, unless there's a question. Okay, anything else in old business? About new business? We're old. Okay. I like a motion to adjourn. Unless somebody has something else.
I just as a reminder, what I mentioned before, to put the Abacus folks on the agenda for the meeting on the 4th. And then to put on there a discussion of the programmatic needs and its impact on the building layout on that agenda.
You know, if anybody actually reads that, you might get some of the public, but it's a matter of if they actually know what's coming up.
Right.
Okay, now, what is it that you wanted to talk about Abacus?
Well, just that we would have guests, that Abacus would be there for our planning purposes, and that they would be talking with us to make sure that the design and layout that has been proposed in the past still fits the needs going forward.
Okay, so prior to the January 4th meeting, you know, I would need to kind of review the plans that were drawn up and see if they're still current, or, you know, just kind of get up to speed on what was looked at in the past.
Right.
And we have those documents that were sent along to us, I think we saw a floor plan or two.
Yeah, so what they basically did was drew up a basic floor plan based on whatever the community input was, and the basic requirements given the population, and probably
Yeah.
what Karen said she wanted to do in the building and things like that. And then all of those different site plans had basically that same footprint or some minor conceptual modification of that footprint plopped onto each site to determine if it was even close to feasible to put that on it. So I think what they're looking to ascertain is, you know, the previous plan was, and I'm just throwing this out, 2,000 square feet, which we know it's not, but like, and now it needs to be 10,000, or she thought it needed to be 15 and I think it needs to be 5. I don't know.
Sure.
But for example, I don't know if my doing my homework is the same. I need to do that as well before that meeting, just to make sure that, you know, I may look at how I would want to use the space differently, and just to provide input. Doesn't mean they'll take it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's important that
So
they
are
be-
these in the Dropbox? Will we all be able to see them?
I believe all of that is in that report from Abacus. And I someone put that in the Dropbox, I thought, right?
I don't remember.
I think
I did
that's
see something from Abacus.
Yeah.
Because it would be
Oh.
good for all of us to look at it. And I'm wondering, Katie, if you can request a couple of things from Abacus.
Okay. What would you
We were
like to
just
do?
talking, Carol brought up that there was an important meeting at the high school that was very well attended, and people were very patient and very focused, and a lot of suggestions and input came from the public, and that has disappeared. And I think it would be good to find out who has it and bring it up at this meeting, and actually have it as a resource going forward of what the people in the town thought. And it must exist. I don't know if the Abacus has it or if the town manager's office has it, but it would be very appropriate for this discussion.
Yeah, I mean, I presume that was the basis for the final report document, but yeah, to go back and look at it individually. I'm trying to hunt up the town meeting in 2020 where the site selection got tabled, so I can see the
Yeah.
specifics of the community input on that. I haven't found it yet, but I've got an email out to the community channel to see if I can get it.
I don't see I mean, I did think I put something in the Dropbox, but I can't see anything in the Dropbox about the building, the new center. If anybody finds it, let me know.
Okay. I think this circles us back to that meeting that we had a while back where I said the only version of it I have is a printed out one where the scaling is improper. And so I can only see a third of the page on each page. So, but I think it was in Dropbox.
Well, I
It
think
seems that
Carly
most
must
of
have
what
it.
and again, I'm new to the I don't want to speak out of school here. It seems like most of what I have, which I think Katie was able to kind of cobble together, is stuff, is site-specific things that were probably discussed in executive session of the building committee, and are probably not yet ready for public dissemination. The public meeting at the school that Janine's referring to, I don't see that kind of input there.
That disappeared, but it must exist. But
Oh,
we
well, it sounds
probably,
like Carly may have it.
yeah, Carly probably has a fair number of papers that might be worth going through, Katie. I know it's
Sure.
another job for you to do and you're busy, but I think you would probably be the best person to go and see what they are. I mean, if I can help you, if you want me to go and look what I think is appropriate, I could go, but I think in the meeting, she specifically invited you. as the
Okay, yep.
director.
No, I will definitely stop over to do that. Yep.
Okay, so our next meeting is January 4th?
Mhm.
Is that what we're doing, the first Tuesday?
Yes.
I mean, right now, I think I don't have a piano student until 3:45. So if we could either meet at 1, to make sure that I have the time to give us a full meeting, or we can end at 3:45, or we can change the date. What's your preference?
I mean, I think
1
an
o'clock
hour
would
and
be fine.
45 minutes should be plenty for our meeting.
Okay,
Yeah, and I think consistency on the time and the dates is, going forward is going to be kind of important to kind of maintain that kind of predictability for the board. So I think an hour and 45 minutes starting at 2 o'clock sounds reasonable.
okay.
I was just going to say I could meet at 1, but I hear what Dennis is saying, that you wouldn't want to keep changing it. If the public actually does want to attend, they might not. They might be thrown off if we keep moving it around.
Okay, great. So anything else we want to discuss? Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
I second.
Dennis? Aye.
Aye.
Aye,
Carol?
Aye.
aye.
Sister Paula?
Aye.
And chair says aye. So we are officially adjourned.